Okay. This is Czerny Selected Piano Studies, a lesson by Melissa Murphy.
Hello. So today we're going to look at one of Czerny's piano studies, of which there are many. There are hundreds. There are several opuses rich with studies to exercise your fingers. And Czerny wrote these studies at the end of the 1700s, early 1800s, when there was a change in the way that piano was being taught. And there was a new way of approaching piano studies with more of an emphasis on finger independence. And this change was brought about by a change in the instrument, in the piano. At the time, there were some pianos being invented which had a very light action, which meant that it was possible to play faster than ever before. So in this study, number 32 in C major, you can see it's an allegro tempo, which means it's going to be a fast piece. And not only is the beat fast, but within each single beat, we're going to hear 4 30-second notes. These are the 30-second notes with the double beams. So the beat itself is already quick. This is your beat. And then you have 30-second notes, 4 squeeze into every beat. Like this. You can see already it starts out with a scale. But what makes it a study is he takes fundamentals that you should know, such as a scale, mixes them with other fundamentals, such as Alberti bass, which is in the 5th bar, and puts them together into a small piece for you to study. The objective is that after you learn this small piece, you'll have several fundamentals under your belt. So first I'll play the piece, and then we'll go a little deeper into these fundamentals. So there's the piece as it is the finished product that we're aspiring towards. And now we're going to break it down into a few of the techniques that you would need to successfully play this piano study. Okay, so first thing that we said we need to know for this study is the scale. So the key signature here, if you look for any sharps and flats, you'll see it has no sharps or flats. There are a few sharps kind of down the road. But the key signature is a C major key signature. Dr. Bull, can you tell us about C major?
C major has no sharps and no flats.
And what finger would the right hand start on for this scale? For
yes,
a scale for C
Number
major?
1, thumb and the right hand.
Exactly. And that's exactly how this piece starts. Now watch out though, because there is a trick. Actually starts with a rest in the right hand and a chord in the left hand. Do you see how the two hands do not play together here?
Yes, I do. I made that mistake. You pointed out.
So that's what makes this a study and not just a scale. There's going to be little tricks thrown in there. Can you find another place?
I can find the difficulty there when I have to go from a C chord to a G7th with no breaks there, and I always get muddled up.
Awesome. Yes, we want to look ahead to any potential difficulties and plan accordingly. So for this piece, you definitely would start out by practicing one hand at a time. The challenge with the right hand is to wait for the left hand. The challenge with the left hand is to look out for chord changes, such as over here in the 2nd bar. So we'll start out just with the left hand. The left hand starts with a C major chord for 4 beats, 3, 4, and changes to a G7 chord. So this G7 chord uses the fourth finger on D. There is another version of G7 which uses the pinky on B. It sounds like this. But we have some flexibility between the two types of G7 in composing. And Czerny chose the version that had a D in it. So you're going to want to practice this chord change just back and forth and get comfortable with that. From C chord to this G7 chord. From C chord to this G7 chord. So that's one of the challenges for the left hand. While we're talking about the left hand, I'll just note the other technical challenge, which I hinted at earlier, which is the Alberti bass over here in bar 5. So for people who haven't heard of Alberti bass, but who have probably heard it in pieces but don't know the definition, how would you describe Alberti bass, Dr. Bull?
Well, it's a wrist motion going, rotating to get the two notes at a sufficient speed without getting exhausted.
That's a fabulous answer. Thank you. Yes.
Thanks to Penny, that's what she taught me.
Yes. That's a fabulous answer. Yes, so in the Alberti bass, we're alternating notes between our first note, which is with the pinky, second was this with the thumb, third is with, in this case, second finger, fourth is with the thumb. So we have a thumb for every other note. So every other note you're using the thumb. And on the in-between notes, you're using your pinky or another finger. So in order to not exhaust your hand between alternating that thumb and the other fingers, we use a rotating wrist motion. Some teachers call it a doorknob motion because when you open the door, you rotate your wrist. It's probably the only time that you rotate your wrist in your day-to-day life other than playing piano. So you might want to warm up before playing this part by envisioning a doorknob and kind of getting your wrist into that rotating motion. Once you're happy with that, then you're ready to play the notes.
Like this.
Bravo. Bravo.
Okay, well, thank you.
That was ideal. Yes, your wrist was rotating in that doorknob kind of motion between D and C. D and C, using your thumb and your pinky. And now we can, so D and C are the first two notes of this chord. Now we can add the last two notes of these four notes. D, C, and then A, C. D, C. D, C, and then A, C. Back to D, D. Okay.
I need more practice.
Yeah, you're getting us slightly stuck because your doorknob was not in effect. So try it again with that motion, and also take the speed down a notch, focusing on the accuracy.
What was it?
And then A. Nice.
I like this.
This is great. You could go on forever like that.
Yeah, you could.
Right? It's very stable and sustainable.
Yes.
As you said, you won't get exhausted.
I didn't want to stop.
That's music to my ears. So those are the technical challenges for the left hand. These chord changes. This is a very common chord progression, so it's a good thing we're studying it, going from a 1 chord, C is the first chord in C major, to a dominant chord, which is G7 and G, and then a 1 chord. So that was our first challenge, is changing your fingers for the chord. And then our second challenge was this Alberti bass, which we just talked about. Going back to the first challenge, Dr. Bull, I want to ask if you have any tips for listeners about changing chords.
Practice. Because
Practice.
It's very difficult. You go from
So we're in a C major chord.
C major, there, and then we got to go to there.
Well, first we're going to the G7 that uses the fourth finger.
Oh, I see. I got the wrong chord. Okay, from there to...
So that's C, E, and G to D, F, and G.
I'm sorry. That's a C chord, and now we want that G7.
Using D, F, and G. D.
And D. Oh, I see. Yes, of course. So it's from C to... I'm not quite sure I'm getting the right finger. There.
Now you got it.
Yes, that's right.
Nice.
Okay. I'm going to play it once more for Doris and see if we've made the recording.
Okay.
May not have switched it on.
Okay.
Go on.
So should I play it again?
Yeah, if you would, please.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're going to finish up with hearing the piece again.
Yes.
I try to listen for the things we talked today. Mainly talked about the left hand.
Yes.
Those chord changes and the rotations.
Oh, may I
for
just
Alberti
call
bass.
out what you have emphasised? I'll do a voiceover, and if I can, say what you have said as you do it. Like when you get to here, I will say left hand G7.
That would be great.
To get your...
Yes.
I know your brain will do it, but mine doesn't unless I tell it. Okay, let's try that.
Wait, could you say that again? Your mind won't do it unless you tell it.
That's right.
That's a very important point, because whenever we begin something, think of when you first learn how to drive or how to cook. You have to have really specific instructions for yourself.
Yes.
And keep very mindful of those instructions.
Yes.
So if you're starting with piano or anything else, it's important to have that inner dialogue with yourself.
That's right.
Reminding yourself of all the new things that you're attempting to do. So I think a voiceover is going to be super helpful.
But you're an excellent teacher.
Thank you, Dr. Bull. You're an excellent student.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready.
Alberti bass.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Melissa. Let's see if we got it recorded.
Okay.
If I switch it on.
Let's see.
What do we have to do? What do we have to do? I could hardly
One of
see
these
it.
buttons. So that's the record button.
Yes, and
That's a play button. That I don't know what that is.
no,
Could you dismantle